Over the course of history, mankind has been trying to answer the big questions. What is the nature of existence, why we're here, and also reality. With the mass awakenings that's occurring, there's an evolution in human knowledge and also an expansion in human consciousness. Once we begin to adjust our worldview that consciousness can influence the most fundamental level of matter, we begin to understand that our outer physical circumstances are simply the effects of our mind. Due to the mechanics of momentum and other corresponding laws of the universe, our ability to call things into being is being accelerated and heightened. The flaw in society is that most of us grew up believing in fear rather than trust. Our experiences in life was built on either being wrong or right, approved or disapproved. This is a world of archetypes, with labels, titles and forms as our human mind can actually grasp the actual meaning of our own existence. Self-actualization is seeing behind the veil of material existence, behind the solid concrete nature of material life. In the spiritual glossary of labels, everything is oneness. This is explaining that the essential unity of the spiritual and material components of the universe, and that is one substance, one energy, one power, one intelligence as a source of all consciousness. Our soul, our mind, is that high intellect, without the thought of being higher than any other or any other being below who we are. This is transcending all creation, yet interpenetrating all existence. All things pervading out from the one perfect, intelligent mind. And so this is expanding our defined limits for human awareness and taking that awareness to another level where humanity begins to realize the concept of enlightenment, self-actualization, understanding the universal laws, understanding the law of attraction, understanding the law of polar opposites, and understanding the laws of human nature. Facing the darkness with non-judgment, and then we are able to come into the wisdom of embodying our higher knowledge. The understanding that everything is consciousness and that there's really no substance to physical matter. The nature of what we see around us is no more than a projection of our own creative thought process. It's not the process of our conscious minds. Growing up in today's modern society, everything that we were taught from childhood to adulthood, being educated in schools until we start working, is a belief system, a construct of the collective consensus. This then creates the archetypal mental creations and visualizations created mentally and then projected out onto each individual's holographic reality. This also creates the conflicts that we have with other belief systems and the interactions that we have with other people. Being closed-minded, having an inconsequential discussion, and always being proven right or wrong about a strongly held belief. This is teaching us how to grow and evolve maturely out of the boxes of planetary understanding and into a more collective intellectual capacity. Just as everything is energy that moves freely within the planetary body, our emotions move freely within the collective heart of humanity. Except again, it's covered and characterized over by the fear. This is due again to mirroring society and also wanting to be accepted without the fear of being rejected, with the result of fear becoming natural to the human consciousness. Because every element within the collective heart influences every other, each of us as individuals exerts a powerful effect on the whole and also greatly influenced by the whole of who we are. And so again, coming out of depression and spiritual awakening is a transformation and a change in direction. And so being engulfed in your own darkness in hell, the purification of healing begins. This is the horizon of expanding our consciousness, allowing the heart and the mind to open to a sense of oneness with all of life. It establishes the foundation for the world in which we are all perceived as part of a greater whole. Those that do suffer their own form of depression, myself included in my own journey, had seen the world and its ugliness, but yet there's also a great desire to want to heal it. That feeling of harmony and love based on a deepening sense that the self and the world are one. Like our ego, our consciousness exists in layers. There's an awareness that belongs to the everyday mind with its problems and concerns, and there's also the awareness that belongs to a deeper part of the self that doesn't exist with time. This is our inner being, our higher self that is connected to the source, to the divine. Our outer self, which is the mental, emotional being and body, is not the same as our higher self or inner being. Again, having that shift in perception, having that shift in awareness, and also expanding our consciousness creates a new paradigm, and also the identity shift, bringing to one's outer self-awareness the truth of spiritual reality, even when circumstances seem to say that only physical reality exists. Depression exists, with the emotions of sadness, of grief, of confusion, with the thoughts of being isolated and alone, all of which exists in the mental and emotional body because we are trying to basically be something other than who we are for the world. And so with this recognition, we then shed that mask that we wore. As we do this over time and shedding each false layer, comes the question of who am I? Our perceptions of life and of our own individual constructions, the understanding that the physical layer of our being is within and therefore it's projected without. And this outward projection is governed by energy. Energy is governed by consciousness. In the glossary of spiritual awakening, it's a soul searching for the light. We don't choose to be in that dark night of the soul, but our soul, within its own domain, continues to support the seeking of the light within, and that is hope. The hope that is invisible, and yet it's what we hold on to without being consciously aware of it. That biochemistry is influenced by the underlying state of consciousness and the energy that it creates. We are all interconnected. Our inner reality and the inner reality of the rest of humanity interpenetrate each other at all times. Through interactions, we share thoughts, energy, and consciousness. As a result, we are always influencing the collective entity of which we are all part of. Our mind and emotions exist upon the planes of experience that are associated with physical manifestations. Our thoughts and our actions are subject to energies of both light and dark in our expression. And that's why it's hard to explain of the feelings that come with depression. And in my own personal opinion, this is when our heart is basically learning how to reopen itself to love. Our heart is the human way of thinking, feeling and knowing center. And it generates energy that allows us to communicate, a connection that is unspoken without words. And this fills that emptiness within us that have waited so long to be filled, allowing our heart to touch its deepest essence and core, the divine nature at the very center of our being. Unconditional love is the divine core that lives within each human heart. But to arrive at the place where it can be felt as a feeling is buried beneath layers of foundations in relation to unhealed situations, making us confused and forget the actual meaning of unconditional love. And this is a divine intervention, the living blueprint of our soul's alchemy. Our heart has included in the lesser the capacity to reach toward the limitless in the way of love, compassion, mercy, and gratitude, providing an inner path to do so, which is carved out by the many ways and experiencing the obstacles through our life's journey, losing ourselves in order to find ourselves, feeling our hearts reopening, as it must be awakened first. And this is the awakening of the Christ self within. The Christ self that doesn't belong to any particular religion, it belongs to the universe of souls. The foundation of this longing is the spiritual gravitation of the human heart. It is a part of the spiritual unfoldment of the soul. In order to experience the vibration of love, to have it become a living reality, is to understand that the words of unconditional love or limitless love can be used without us having a full awareness of the actual meaning. It's on our own individual journey that enables the heart to keep reaching towards what it most deeply seeks. The way I like to see it is that life is a journey. No two paths are the same. We live to learn, we break to heal. We are all souls striving to regain our former identity, embodied in the vessel of a human, with all of humanity's emotions of good and bad, to experience life, taking us on each unique soul journey and soul path, even getting lost on our path in that cold darkness of meaningless existence, not to be stuck there in that void of emptiness and darkness, but to be your own hero in saving yourself, walking out as a warrior of consciousness, finding yourself, and also understanding what it means to truly unconditionally self-love, what it means to give and also receive love. This is our soul's journey and finding our way back home.